in actively, your mind actively. Oh, good, we have a happening. All right, so that's one crowd. How many of you, you got some connections, it's kind of dormant, you're sort of there, but nobody kind of is. And how many of you do not have a LinkedIn profile at all? Anybody? One person. Okay. Working on it. Okay, so just so you know, this class is actually going to go fairly advanced. So I'm hoping you can follow along. This is being videotaped, so you might want to go back and reread it. So let's go back over John's question. What is the purpose of LinkedIn? Not just for, networking, yes. Let's go a little more specific. What type of networking? Under what conditions? I want you to start taking off of your fingers. John mentioned one aspect around researching for interviews. Give me some more. What else can you use LinkedIn for?
Establish thought leadership.
Establish thought leadership, great.
LinkedIn Learning.
LinkedIn Learning. There's a lot, I got fingers and toes here. Huh?
Highlight your participation in various events.
Sure. Highlight your skills, highlight your experiences, highlight your volunteer, what else?
Respond to job postings.
Respond to job postings, more.
Identify associations that are appropriate.
Identify associations you can connect with, what else?
Set up informational interviews.
Set up informational interviews, keep going.
Keep track of friends and promotions. And
Keep track of friends and promotions, more.
It's a dynamic online resume.
Dynamic online resume, more.
Leveraging your contacts to go to the second, third level and get learning more about fields you want to get into.
I think you attended a training. You did, like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
You sat through this whole thing.
Right.
Yes, and that is actually one of the key things that we're going to be talking about. Everything that everybody mentioned here is absolutely true. Now, we're not going to be able to go over all of that. There's just no time for that. But here are two things that I want to share with you, okay? On LinkedIn, you want to be found, and you want to be able to proactively find others. These are the two things that I want to share with you today. It's extremely important that you understand this. And the way that I want to start is by sharing with you a couple statistics. 97% of recruiters use LinkedIn as part of their job search, candidate search. 67% of recruiters use LinkedIn exclusively to find candidates. Is that shocking? This is the way of the world and has been for a number of years. Job boards, the ones that you traditionally use, Indeed, Career Builder, and by the way, even LinkedIn's own job board. You have competition from here to here. How easy is it for you to get a job? How easy is it for you to get noticed when you apply for one of those jobs? Where does your resume go? Into cyberspace, correct? I'm going to help you tonight shift and turn the tides so that you can both be found and most importantly that you can basically be your own recruiter. I'm going to teach you the tricks of the trade. So just 2 seconds about my bio. I'm both a career coach and I'm a recruiter. A career coach and a recruiter. I see things from both sides of the desk. I recruit every day and I coach every day. And because of that, I have a really strong understanding of how employers and recruiters find you and how the needs you have when it comes to your search. And so today we have a little bit less than 2 hours, okay? Now I realize that especially you active users, there are a whole bunch of burning questions you have, and I know half of what they are, okay? Because I've done this a lot. So what I want to do is I want to start with just getting some of the burning questions off of your plate. Then we're going to actually get online. I'm going to do a hands-on training with you. It is going to go fast. Gotta take notes. It is a fire hose. And actually, the first question I'm going to answer for you before you even ask it, because half of you in this room are already thinking it, and this is, ready? Should I accept every invitation I receive? Anybody thinking that? You? No, you're not thinking that? So are. I see some head nods. I see head nods. It happens where a lot of people are what's called open networkers. Okay? So they will literally reach out and ping you for a connection just because they want to expand their network. Oftentimes they're salespeople. Even recruiters will do that. I do get this question a lot. Should I accept every invitation? Well, here's the thing. When LinkedIn first started, back in 2004, they tried to really emphasize this idea of only connect with people you know, right? Well, I understand that. It makes sense because you want to have a community. At the same time, they also realized that, hey, this is a very expansive community. And the more people you have, the more people you can know. And so you have your firsts, your seconds, and your thirds. Well, here's news. The more first levels you have, the more seconds you can have and the more thirds you have. Now that might sound obvious, but you have to really think about this. If you close your network off and say, I'm only going to connect with people I really know, now you've just limited your potential universe of contacts. I'm going to be teaching you the advanced search features of LinkedIn, where you're going to be able to use the search bar, which is in the upper left-hand corner. It's tucked away. It's sort of hidden in plain sight. And in that search bar, we're going to do some fancy stuff. Okay, really, it's a powerful, powerful tool. But in order to really leverage it, you have to have a lot of connections. Because guess what? There is no fourth level in LinkedIn. It's first, second, third. So if you do a search in the search bar and you find this person and they're out of your network, you know what it's going to say? LinkedIn member. Anybody ever seen this? They say this is LinkedIn member. That means it's your fourth level. Well, if you don't have a lot of connections, you're going to have a lot of LinkedIn members show up. And I want you to be able to have the most robust chance of actually getting the interviews that you want, getting the connections that you want, getting the network that you want. So I just answered a question I think some of you had. What are your other questions, burning questions about LinkedIn? Yes.
I was curious what you advise people, let's say you're applying someplace and you see that you have 4 people who work at that place who are second connections.
Okay, so meaning, right, so you're applying to Acme Company, and there are 4 people who work there that are your second levels. And your question is?
So how do I leverage that? I mean, people could be a little sensitive if you're applying for a position and they don't know you from Adam.
Sure.
So, but you hate to not take advantage of it somehow.
Absolutely.
So,
Okay, so before I answer the question, because I'm normally one to just shoot the answer out. Does anybody, what is your name?
Anne-Marie.
Anne-Marie. Does anybody have an answer for Anne-Marie before I chime in? Should she leverage her second levels to get access to that role, and if so, how? Anybody have an answer? Yeah, Jeff?
Yeah, I would say yes, but maybe go through the first level that knows you both.
Yeah, so that's really what it is. It's all about leveraging your first level contact. The lovely thing about second levels is that you always will know who your mutually shared contact is, and actually maybe multiple people. So let's say John Smith is your second level, and you open up John's profile, and now you see you have 5 mutual connections. And we'll show examples of that in the training. One of the decisions you have to make is, who should you reach out to? Which is your first level? So it's a little bit tricky, because on the one hand, you want to start with the person that you know the best. So you've got these 5 people. One of them is Mary. Okay, you know Mary's your buddy. Well, you know her well enough where it's no big deal. She'll do you a solid, as they say. Okay. That said, though, Mary and John may not know each other too well. So the relationship goes on 2 sides. Remember, with LinkedIn, it is a database. It is a powerful database, but it's just a database. Relationship rules apply. Just like with anything, a friend of my friend is my friend, right? And so if you have the second level, you will leverage your first level. But what you want to do with Mary is you want to be considerate of her potential relationship, or lack thereof, with John. And so you reach out to Mary. Now, there's a couple ways to do that. You can do that through LinkedIn. You can use the message board. Again, I'll show, for those of you who are less familiar, you can use the message board. Then again, Mary may not be checking her messages. Because for those of you who are active users, I'm sure you get messages from other people, don't you? Mm-hmm. And you get an email in your inbox. But these days, what does the email say? It simply says the name of the person and their title. It doesn't actually tell you what the message is on the email. They want you to go into the portal, so you have to click on it and you have to get, well, that takes the extra second that most of us don't want to take. Isn't it true? Because we're all so busy? Yep. Meaning Mary may not want to take that extra second, okay? So you have to understand that. And you can go directly to Mary through email. Not only just because you happen to have her email. Does anybody know where you can find the email address of your first level contacts? Where do you find it? Right, so for those of you who don't know, well, again, I'll show it. When you want, if you have a first level contact, you open up that person's page, and right under their picture, there's a little blue button that says Contact Info. Click there, and you're going to see that person's email. And that's just a really good technique anyway if you're just looking for somebody's email. Okay, does that help a little bit? And then when you write, when you write her, I didn't finish my thought. When you write her, you want to be considerate and say, "Hi, Mary. Hope all's well. I noticed on LinkedIn you're connected to John so-and-so. There's a job there that I recently applied for. Do you know him well enough to broker an introduction, or to forward my resume on for consideration, for extra consideration with the employer?" And by the way, not for nothing, but you can do this with multiple people. It doesn't have to be just John, right? Or excuse me, just Mary to John. You can go Mary to John, but let's say you got those three other second levels. you can use 3 or 4 of your contacts. Years ago, I had it happen where I was on a panel of other recruiters, and there was one woman sitting there, and she was an internal recruiter, and she said, she was talking about how she got her own job. She said she literally had 5 different people refer her into the job. 5 people. And by like the 3rd or 4th, like, all right, we'll interview her. And she got the job. Okay, squeaky wheel. Don't just settle with one person. You can have multiples.
Okay. So, and if they, let's say they don't know you well enough maybe to refer you, because you just know them from grad school, but they're happy to introduce you.
Well, so it's kind of, so let me make a slight distinction here. There's referring and there's recommending.
Right.
So
Okay.
2 different things. Let's make that distinction, okay? They may not know you well enough to recommend you and say, Anne Marie is like the best thing since sliced bread. You're right. They may not know you. But most people will actually do you a favor and say, can you refer me to this position? Would you be comfortable sharing my resume for extra consideration? Not would you recommend me? It's how you phrase it.
Okay.
Just to get extra. Why? Because everybody knows that there's a pile, this many of the resumes. Just pull your resume to the top. That's why there's extra consideration. Okay.
Helpful. Thank you.
Yes.
Hey there, I'm interested in your opinion if you've noticed many changes with LinkedIn since Microsoft purchased it in December
There's changes almost every day.
2016.
It's changing constantly. I mean, so much that I wouldn't even be able to tell you how much, because I mean, literally, I could be doing a training like this and something changes. So
For the better, or?
I would even say, well, actually.
And then I had a follow-up question.
Okay, so yes and. The yes part is once they switched to Microsoft, the entire search features changed, and to much for the better. Because now we have much more robust field, which I'll show you if you haven't used it already, what's called the all filters section. And all those fields never existed before Microsoft took over. So I was like, thank you, Lord. Okay. Now, that said, they do make all these little iterations. Okay. And every once in a while, there was a point recently where, gosh, I'm trying to remember, where they took away. I can't remember now what the feature was. But I'm like, wait, that's a standard thing. And I guess they must have gotten enough pushback that they took it back. So they keep iterating things here and there. What I'm going to show you tonight is, I think, pretty much what's going to be, but there might be little tweaks. I mean, for example, references, recommendations. The recommendations changed. It used to be that if you didn't have a recommendation already, you can go to the bottom of your profile and you can just sort of create one. Now you can't do that. You have to go to somebody's profile and you have to proactively ask for the recommendation. Little things like that you might think, where did that go? And you have to be a little bit of a detective.
And so just the second part of my question was, do you think the paid premium service is worth it?
That's another question I get all the time. For the most part, it's not worth it, but there is one condition under which it would be, right? But first, let me explain why I don't think it's worth it. So, most of what people think when they get that premium is they think, oh, I'm going to be able to see who stalked me on LinkedIn. Who cares? If somebody looked at you and they want to reach out to you, they'll reach out to you. We don't need to do the itch scratching thing. That doesn't serve anybody any purpose. The other thing you can get is in-mail. Okay, some people feel that's worth it. Now, for those of you who don't know what in-mail is, I-N-M-A-I-L, which LinkedIn keeps changing its nomenclature, but that's the traditional word for it. In-mail is basically LinkedIn's version of email inside their portal. What that means is that let's say you have a 3rd level connection. Okay? So if you have a 3rd level connection, you're not going to be able to see who your middle person is. Whereas if you have a second level connection, you can see who your 1st level contact is. We know that. But a 3rd level connection, you can't. Therefore, if you want to reach out to a 3rd level person, you have no person to leverage. You can't say, hey, I know Mary. So LinkedIn gives you the option, if you haven't paid the premium, to send them an in-mail. What is an in-mail? It's not, notice that in-mail is not a connection invitation. Please know that. I've had people send me in-mails thinking that I'm going to connect. They're not connecting. In-mail is simply an open canvas for you to write as much as you want to that person. Now, on the one hand, you think, well, that's great. If I have this 3rd level person, I want to go reach out to them. Why not do it? And it's true. You could. The only thing is that with premium, you don't get very many anymore. Back in the day, you used to get like 40 in-mails. Now you get like 10 or 15, and if you have, or 20, let's say, and if you get an in-mail, You lose it until that person accepts it, and then it comes back to you. And then after a month, it'll refresh. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. I'm just really trying to address your specific question.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's worth it. I think you can just send a connection invitation, do your little 300 characters, be done with it. Hopefully they will accept your invitation, and then you can message them. Now, the one condition under which I think that it is valuable is this. And we're going to get into this tonight. If you end up becoming an advanced user whereby you use the search feature all the time, search after search after search after search after search, at some point, LinkedIn's going to say, coming to you up, baby. And you know what they're going to say? There's a little box that's going to pop up, and it's going to say something funky like, you have exceeded your commercial limit on LinkedIn, you must upgrade your premium. You're like, my commercial what? All that basically means is, you're probably a recruiter or a salesperson, we know you, and now you have to get to premium. So if you know you're going to use it a lot, at some point, yes, you're going to want to upgrade. Other than that, and Linda, and if you want to use the LinkedIn Learning, that's actually another reason these days to do it, but that's only if you really are going to use the learning feature. Otherwise, I don't think it's worth it. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I did the LinkedIn trial premium.
Yeah.
It only needs to buy 5 emails.
Well, and then and you're right. And for the trial, it probably would only do 5. I think once you upgrade for real, I think they do 10, and then there's another one you can get like 15. Anyway, either way, it's still not a lot.
It's not worth it.
Not worth it. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other burning questions? Yes. Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, so when I've done my connections, I've done a lot through family, friends, former coworkers, and some other names. I'd say, 60-70% I get pretty quick connection. On the ones that I haven't gotten a connection from in maybe a couple, 3 weeks,
Yeah.
so far I just sent a straight connection. I didn't actually personalize it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recommend kind of circling back and maybe if there's somebody if they work somewhere?
Yeah, okay, so let me actually answer that in 2 different ways.
Okay.
First of all, you passed the salt when you said, well, I didn't personalize it.
Yeah.
You need to personalize your contact, your connection.
Got it.
If you're going to send a connection invitation these days, personalize it, absolutely, because there are a lot of people who literally will not accept you if you just send them the standard, I'd like to invite you to my professional network on LinkedIn. But there's the tricky piece. How many of you have the LinkedIn app? You all should have the LinkedIn app. But here's the thing about the app, and actually this applies to the PC as well. There's a tab in LinkedIn called My Network. And in the My Network tab, and especially it's easy to fall in this habit with this problem with the app, is that when you open the My Network tab, LinkedIn is going to prompt you. All the people we think you may want to connect with so-and-so. They have this laundry list, alumni and former colleagues, and this and that and the other. And guess what, folks? This is a change in LinkedIn, okay? This is what they do now. If you hit the connect button from the My Network page in any of this, what happens? It shoots it right out and it will not allow you to personalize it. There's a workaround though. This is the workaround. Ready? Don't hit the connect button from that page. Click on the name of the person, open up their profile, then hit the connect button, and then you can personalize it. Little check.
Their profile first.
Hit the profile. Do not hit the connect button from the My Network page, either on the app or on the PC. Click on the name, open the profile, then hit connect, and then you can personalize it. Okay? Really, really important. So that's actually part 1 of your question.
Yes.
And then the other part is this. Look, I mean, how many of you are on LinkedIn so much that you accept all of your connections the second that they come in? Like, really? Nobody does. I don't do that. And I'm on LinkedIn a lot.
Sure.
Most people just sort of let it sit there. I mean, I have people who I've sent a connection invitation to months ago, and now all of a sudden they're no harm, no foul. It's just they didn't get to it. It's just life, right? That said, if there really are people that you're trying to reach, there's no reason that you couldn't shoot a follow-up. Now, how do you do the follow-up? You don't literally have to stalk them online and find their email address. Go to your second level. Find out who it is. Your first level. If they're a second level and you have a first level mutual contact, that might be a time to say, in this case, right? Hi Mary, I noticed you're connected to John so-and-so, really interested in connecting with him. Would you consider brokering an introduction? And you can do that just through email. And then hopefully once John, accepts the email introduction, then go back and say, oh great, I'm so glad to be connected to you, John. By the way, I sent you a connection invitation, would love to stay connected on LinkedIn. Get it? So you have to work around it. Yeah.
I just want to add, I'm one of those people that sometimes lets folks sit in my
Yeah,
connect.
sure. Normal.
But the reason I do it, if they send me an explanation, and they give some text why they want to connect,
Yeah.
I'm more likely to connect quicker.
Yes.
The folks that just say, I like to be in your network,
Right.
I'm going to spend some time figuring out, well, what do we have in common? Why
Right.
would
So
they?
you're one of those people.
and-
You're what one might call a kind of a quality networker, right? You're like, no. I'm going to think about whether, and you're not alone.
Well, that's why I brought it up. If yours is sitting there, it might be because you didn't cut.
And there's a lot of
personalize
people
it.
like that. That's exactly why you need to personalize. And by the way, there's something else about personalization. So yes, you do want to personalize. However, you get 300 characters to write that little, watch this, you get 300 characters to write that little invitation, okay? Here's the kicker. Has anybody ever seen when you receive an invitation from somebody, and you see it in your email, actually not even you see it in LinkedIn, do you know how much of the message that somebody wrote you actually shows up? The first line, maybe a little bit of the second line. Meaning, if you actually use all 300 characters, including asking them a question, could even be, hey, can we have coffee? Or anything that requires an action on their part, they may not actually see the whole message before they hit accept. So you just know that. So therefore, if they hit accept and you did ask a question and they didn't hit reply because they're just going real fast and they're just hitting accept, what do? Now you write them an email. And because you have their email, because now you're first level contact and you can connect contact info and reach out to them. Really important that you understand that. Otherwise, you might think, well, why didn't they respond to my question? People do that to me all the time, and I'm like, okay, let me hit see more. You should hit see more for your own people, but if you're sending it to somebody else, they may not be hitting see more. Okay. Anything else? Yep.
Many people these days are like you. They're wearing more than one hat.
Yeah.
I'm a vice president at a trade association, and I'm a coach.
Yeah.
So
We need to connect. We're in the same tribe.
yeah, great. But part of my dilemma right now is I start writing something as a coach, and it could confuse the people that know me as a VP of a trade association.
Sure.
So I'm thinking about alternative. Now, one thing I'm thinking about, I'd like to get your feedback, is create a Facebook business page as a coach. The problem with that is it's hard to build up that following unless I invite people.
Even though Facebook technically has the business section, of course, it's not a Facebook class. I mean, you could do it, but really, LinkedIn is the professional profile. For those,
I'm sorry, I meant to say LinkedIn.
I'm sorry.
I have both, but I meant to say
yeah.
you can create a LinkedIn
Yes,
business page.
you absolutely can. If you have a side business, right? Because you have a traditional W-2 job
Right.
and you have a side gig.
Right.
Yes, for sure. You can certainly create that LinkedIn page. However, understand that your personal profile, which, by the way, only have one, don't have two. That's confusing for people. Okay, have one. In the what's called the About section, it used to be called the Summary section. There's a recent change. It used to be called Summary, now it's About. In the About section, where you get 2,000 characters, that's it, including spaces. Use it wisely. You could maybe sort of draw a line there and have your coaching business, presuming everybody knows at your association that you're doing it, have it there sort of at the bottom. But then also in your experience, which is really your experience section, which is your resume, you're going to have both. Now here's the tricky part of that. LinkedIn will only go with your most recent job. So can I guess that you've been doing coaching for less amount of time than you've been at the tri? So which means that if you put your coaching thing in there and says, I don't know, let's say 2018 to present or something,
Right.
well, guess what? That's going to show up first and people might get a little confused. So you have to make a decision. I'm not going to advise you what to do, but just please know that that's what's going to happen. But what you could do is, again, use your About section to mention the side gig underneath where you talk about your trade association and professional experience.
So just as a quick follow-up, I have done that. I think the bigger problem is when you start to post. You start to write articles, you start to post.
It is. Listen, there's not an. I have to tell you, there's no easy way for me to talk about that because not everybody does that. It's great that you're doing it, but you're right. That is a bit of confusion within the community. Of course, if you're coaching association executives, it makes it a little easier so people can know in our world that they do that. But yeah, it's kind of, it is what it is, you know. So yeah, I wish I had an easy answer.
Okay.
Any other questions?
just wanted to address the Facebook professional page thing. With Facebook, they try to sell you ads, so they won't show your page. You'll establish a page, you have all these people that are following your page and liking it, but they want to make money off of you, so they won't show your page unless you advertise. And the algorithm on Instagram changes as well because they want to make money. So it's really counterproductive to what you want to do. It used to be good, but and Instagram used to be good too. I reached out to people from interviewing on Instagram and they responded to me. But the algorithm is also for business is really not good unless you want to invest money in it. Which brings me to a question about the binder groups on Facebook.
We're actually not here to talk about Facebook. I'm so sorry. And frankly, I'm not an expert on
Yeah,
Facebook.
no, okay, that's
Sorry,
okay.
I apologize.
Yeah, it's okay.
Thank you. Yes.
I have a question that's different but similar. I'm actively looking, and there's 3 or 4 different areas I'm looking in. So I know if I'm sending a targeted resume, just pick one of those areas. But what's the best way you would suggest to approach that on LinkedIn?
In terms of your brand, having a brand that's inclusive,
Yeah.
it's a really big question. It's something that we actually are going to talk
Okay.
about. But here's sort of, well, we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
put a pin in that. Any other burning questions before we jump in? We good? Ready? Yes?
Why do you have 29,000 connections?
Right. So that's a great question. So I am one of those open networkers, okay? So in fact, I paid for the privilege years ago on something called opennetworker.com. I do not recommend that all of you do that. I did that for my own reasons, right? I am a career coach and I'm a recruiter. I want to know where everybody is. By the way, not for nothing, but LinkedIn will only allow you to have 30,000. Only 30,000. That's what I actually did, and I had to keep deleting people from like internationally who I never have no business connecting with anyway. So yes, that's why I have it. Okay, yes.
And then maybe you'll cover this too,
Yeah.
but it's frustrating when I see every week, 30 people or 50 people, whatever, viewed, and I see maybe a couple of them are recruiters. I don't know what position necessarily.
It doesn't matter.
So do I just
Don't even. This is exactly what I was talking about earlier. Don't let it drive you nuts. Literally ignore it.
I tried.
Ignore it. Ignore it. The LinkedIn is trying to get LinkedIn's doing this on purpose. You have to know their strategy. Look, and God bless them, they got to make money. Okay, this is their tactic. There's nothing wrong with them doing it, but I want you to understand it's a tactic. They're using the social media itch factor. They're trying to say, poke, these people looked at you. If you want to see who they are, pay the premium.
But I'm already in premium. So.
Yeah. So, but in any event, it's just sort of a social media phenom. Please, for your own peace of mind, just ignore it. Because the fact is if somebody looked at you and didn't, there's a reason. And oh, by the way, tonight we're going to be doing searches for random people. That person's going to see somebody look at them. Right? And by the way, you're going to come up in people's searches. That doesn't necessarily mean they were opening your profile. It's because you came up in a search. So sometimes they look at your profile, but a lot of times you just come up in a search randomly speaking. The point is this, LinkedIn is trying to kind of goad you into getting into it more and sort of hooking you in. But it's just...
I just was paranoid that, okay, maybe they did see what...
No. And by the way, even if they
I'm
did...
looking for different kinds of jobs, so...
And they're looking for different kinds of people. And they're looking for a unicorn.
Yeah.
So don't even sweat it. Okay, so as we jump into this, any other burning questions? All right, can I go back to stage on stage? Okay, great. So we've got 2 sides that we want to deal with. The being found and the finding others. All right, now let's talk about the being found for a second, broadly speaking. Let's talk about your brand. Okay? So I want to help you to think about this in a fairly defined way. So I'm going to give you a couple of pieces of terminology that I like to use. One I call a tribe, and the other I call a lane. This is just my repurposing of those 2 words, tribe and lane. I consider a tribe the industry, mission, or sector that you serve, or I should say that you might serve, because not everybody has a tribe. And lane is your occupation or your profession. So your tribe is who you serve, and your lane is how you serve. Now, when I say that not everybody has a tribe, I mean that a lot of you have a lane. You're in accounting, you're in HR, you're in marketing or PR, you're You're in some version of IT. You do a thing, right? You have a career field. You might be what's called cross-tribal. You might serve all kinds of industries. Anybody like that? Yeah, it happens all the time. There are some people like us who really focus on one tribe. Okay, so we focus on associations. Now, actually, I do trades and societies. Okay, so you know I'm in the tribe. I mean, knowing how to say that. But other people wouldn't understand that. If I said trade and society, you're like, what a what? If you're not in my tribe, you would not know what I just said. Okay. Well, I say that because every tribe, every industry has its own nomenclature, has its jargon, has its lingo. And you've got tribes, and then you've got villages. So, for example, we might say, and I'm so sorry, your name again? Your name? Mark. So, Mark, you and I would broadly be considered in the nonprofit tribe. Well, you and I know that there are different kinds of nonprofits. You got your C6 and your C3, your C4, and you got your nationals and your locals and all of these. So I would say that there are villages within. But why would I say that? Because when you are talking to somebody from your tribe, you know it, and they know it, because you're talking the same language. The reason why that's important for your brand is this. If you have a tribe, you need to start with your tribe. Your brand needs to focus on your tribe. You need to be showing people in your LinkedIn profile and in your thought leadership that you understand the urgent problems that are keeping that tribe up at night. You and I could talk about the disruption within the membership world. And I could talk all day long about how membership is no longer an obligation, all the ways that associations are trying to solve those urgent problems and create member value. No one else in the room might understand what we just said, okay? But we understand these problems. And if you understand the problems, then that tribal message has to come out. So, to your point in the back, if you are talking about, if you are a tribal person, and you have different lanes, ways that you solve those tribal problems, your umbrella might be talking about the bigger issues, okay? Conversely, let's say you have a lane but you're cross-tribal. Maybe you want to go to the highest point of your lane. You may want to be, maybe you're not going to be, you're going to talk about, I don't know, maybe you're in the IT profession, right? Well, what in the world does that mean? It can mean 5,000 things. Well, maybe you're trying to shift a little bit. And so you want to get to the highest common denominator within your lane, solving the broadest type of problems so that you have a little bit of differentiation. You can have something that's a little bit elastic, okay? Especially for those who have different kinds of lanes that you're pursuing. Anybody here a career changer or want to be a career changer? Usually there's at least several in the room. It's one of the hardest things to do. You know why? Because employers are risk averse. Period. They are risk averse. Because they're risk averse, they want to know that you've been there, done that. Therefore, if you are going to consider shifting into actually either a lane or a tribe, LinkedIn is one of the best places to do that. You know why? Because you can talk in first person. You should be talking in first person in LinkedIn in your about section. You can't talk in first person on your resume, right? It's just not cool to do that. Everything's third person. And besides, what your resume is all about your past-based experience. Whereas your LinkedIn can actually be an aspirational message for the future. And I'm going to show you an example when we get there of somebody who I actually helped go, you want to talk about changing, he changed his tribe 180 degrees. Mortgage banking to regenerative medicine. I'm not kidding. Because we kept the same lane. Because in mortgage banking, he actually was a salesperson. And we kept the sales lane, and we turned him into helping regenerative medicine medical practices sell their services to patients. What? Yeah, we did it. LinkedIn was the first step. Oh yes, there was other steps he had to take. There's no question. It wasn't just about LinkedIn. Don't just think build it and they will come. But LinkedIn was the first stage in that process because we created a narrative that told people that he was serious about making the shift. So any of you who are considering a career shift, please know you need to be serious. And for those of you who are saying, but I want to keep my options open. Yeah, people don't hire generalists, they hire specialists. They want people who are committed, passionate, know what they want. And even if you haven't done that thing before, if you can tell that employer through your LinkedIn profile, I'm committed. So I have a client who was, I write resumes and I write LinkedIn profiles and things. So examples that I give you are from that. So I had this client, and she was worked for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, one of the Fannie Mae, and she had this epiphany one day that the world is coming to an end because of climate change, right? Okay. So she decides to go jump into the environmental pool. How in the world is she going to go do that for Fannie Freddie? Well, she went and she got her graduate certificate in environmental studies. She went in and took with one of the local networking groups called WEC, which is Women in Environmental Energy, such and such. And she went and she networked, and we created her profile, okay? We made sure that she had a message to say that she was committed to the new, in this case, her new tribe. Does that make sense, okay? Really, really important that you get a clarity on that. And if you have a tribe, use it. If you don't have a tribe, make sure that people understand that you know the urgent problems keeping your lane up at night. So for example, you're in a lane with multiple tribes, right?
I am.
Yeah, what's your field? What's your lane?
22 years of legal experience, 3 years in project management at a corporation, and 10 years in nonprofit.
Ah, okay, so you just gave me a couple lanes of tribe. A couple of French fries in there. So legal, meaning you're a lawyer or paralegal? Paralegal.
Many different hats and all.
Okay, fine. So for a moment, so if we say paralegal, the thing about paralegals is that, yeah, you could work for a law firm, you could work for corporate, there's different ways to do that, but a paralegal's a paralegal. Well, how do you, if you have a couple different lanes, do you know what message you're trying to tell the new employer? Do you know?
I believe so. In running a lot of events and fundraisers for charities in the nonprofit world, it's all project management skills. It's running a trial, it's running a corporate transactional deal, it's putting everything together.
Okay, so this is interesting, all right? So a lot of you are going to look at your background and you're going to be looking for something different. What you're talking about is repurposing your skills.
Okay.
Because when you think of what do you think a paralegal does? What do you do? What is just not you? What? You know what a paralegal is. What as a layperson, what is a repurpose? Huh?
Edit legal documents.
Edit legal documents.
Research.
This is I'm asking the lay people here, right? Edit legal documents, research, what? Summarize briefs, categorize, okay, all this stuff. But you do it for lawyers. So when somebody thinks of a paralegal, they think legal. Emphasis on the legal. You're thinking, well, wait a second. I have all of these skills. I've done event plan, project management, this and that. But the lay person in the room isn't thinking that. They have a perception of what a paralegal is.
Right.
So if you're going to go ahead and redo your brand, you've got to make sure that the repurposed skills come to the top. And I don't just mean the physical phrases. I mean, people have to understand that you consider yourself a project manager or you consider yourself an event planner. And by the way, if you want to go into the nonprofit space, that's going to come out too. See, all of this has very, very nuance. And I'm talking about this with you because you have to walk a mile in the recruiter's shoes. What are they thinking about you? What is the perception that they have of your brand based on in terms of your old experience? How do you use your about section to tell a different story? You've got to be able to tell a different story. Okay, so what I want to do real quickly is I want to walk through the being found piece. Okay? And this has to do with your profile. So when you open up, we all know what this looks like, or most of us do, that this is your homepage. Although I really would love LinkedIn to change this because this whole homepage is so confusing. They need something a little more elegant, but that's a different story. If you ever want to get to your editable page, for those of you who don't know, you click on your picture. One of the ways is clicking on your picture on the left-hand side. And so click on your picture. All right. I'm going to go through from top to bottom. I understand that we have different levels of knowledge in the room, so please bear with me at whatever level you are. Bless you. All right, first things first. First things first on the upper left, your picture. You need to have a picture. Now, some of you might be saying, but I don't want to have a picture. And you have reasons for not wanting to have a picture. We won't go into the reasons, all right? Let me say this. If you don't have a picture, what does it say? These days, what is it telling the employer?
You're not serious.
You're not serious? What else?
You're hiding something.
You're hiding something. Right. And for those of you who have any concern about diversity of whatever sort, please understand, and I'm taking it from one who's well ensconced in the HR world, I can say this with surety. that employers these days are tripping over themselves to hire diverse candidates. I know people who lose jobs who are not diverse candidates because they're not diverse candidates. That's how much diversity, what's called DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, is a thing these days, and it will only become more so. So please know that. If you're rolling your eyes and say, I can't believe it, I'm telling you, I can show you the articles and I can bring you into all of my HR world. They are serious about this. So for whatever that's worth. But more than that, though, they say that the eyes are the window to the soul. Right? You get to sort of connect with somebody when you see their picture. Now, you notice this is a professional picture. This is not a Facebook picture with my arm over somebody and my arm cut off. Right? No, none of that. None of that. Do you have to go to a professional photographer? No. It's helpful to do that, but these days we all have these little gadgets, and you can just go and have your friend do a nice little picture against a wall, wear your suit, wear your whatever. You need something that's professional, okay? I can't emphasize that enough. As far as the picture, well, look, I'm in business for myself, so I put, my masthead there. You don't actually need anything behind you, but if you choose to do that, the way that you do it is you click on this pencil here, which is the upper right here, and then you click on the pencil up top, and you can actually pop in a picture. If you do, be careful on what you put up there. For example, I know a lot of people here in the Washington, D.C. area who will put up a picture of the Capitol, whatever. Well, if you put up a picture of the Capitol or any government building on your LinkedIn, which is almost like a website, what are people going to think you do for a living? Work with government relations, lobbying, any of those things, okay? So be careful about that. I mean, some people do cherry blossoms, but even so, my recommendation is if you're going to do a picture, make it a picture of something that's reflective of what you do, okay? Just be careful. I've had people who go the other way, be very artsy, creative, lovely, but not necessarily the most professional image, okay? So just understand that people are thinking of you as a professional, not just you as a person, so just watch for that. Okay, your heading. Now, again, I'm in business. I do more than even what I had shared earlier. You would not do it this way. Okay, I'm doing this because I'm listing my practice areas. When you think about your heading, a couple things. So some of you in this room, I'm not going to have you raise hands. Some of you in this room are gainfully employed. Okay? If you are gainfully employed and you are conducting a confidential job search, please know that if you do anything other than your title, which is LinkedIn's default, what's going to probably happen? What are people going to think at back of your office? You're looking for a job. This is the way. This is the unwritten rule with LinkedIn now. If you change your title, because LinkedIn, when you create your page, it says what's your title, and it uses that as the default. And if you change that to anything interesting, right? This dynamic executive who solves all the world problems, like whatever. Your employer will usually think, oh, they're looking for a job. So just be careful if your job search is confidential. If it is not confidential, this is a great way for you to change your brand. And in your brand, there are all different ways to do it, but I'll give you a real quick example. And okay, so this person. And by the way, I hope you can, because this is being videoed, I'm trying to hide the name, okay? Dedicated nonprofit leader, partnership convener, strategic grant maker, team collaborator, right? There are ways to do this where you can speak your brand. Now in her case, she's a tribal person, nonprofit. And the fact that we put in a grant maker here says to the world she's more in the charitable side of nonprofits, for those of you who know what I just said. But that actually means something. And there are ways that you can create your headline that says to the employer, here's my tribe, here's my lane, maybe here's a soft or behavioral competency about me that I want you to know. But you need to be intentional about this. Why? For two reasons. Number one, when a recruiter is searching for you, and they're going to use the search bar, that's the second part of our conversation. They will use the search bar to come find you. They're going to put in keywords. They're going to put in event planner, or they're going to put in project manager, or they're going to put in financial analyst, or they're going to put in membership executive, or whatever. Depending upon what your headline says, actually will determine whether or not you come up quickly on the first, second, or third page. Because LinkedIn's algorithm in the search is that they look at the headline first. So whatever search term that employer puts in there, if your headline happens to have those keywords, you are more likely to come up. And if they don't, you might have all the qualifications in the world, but if your headline doesn't match, you might get on page 10. Now, how in the world do you know? You don't know. All you can do is send out a message, if you will, a brand to the world that says, hey, here are the most important keywords. And if what you're saying to the world is, if you're looking for that kind of person, I want you to know that it's there. And so you put it up in your heading. You've got to be really, really intentional when it comes to what keywords you put up there. I can't emphasize that enough. Now, the About section. I'm going to spend a little bit of time here. All right? And I need to give a little caveat, all right? Before I start talking about all of this, I mentioned a minute ago that I do write LinkedIn profiles. So all of the samples I'm going to show you are ones that I wrote, right? Do you have to write them like this? Absolutely not. Do you have to work with me or another coach? Absolutely not. But I do want to show you there's a different way to approach your About section. So let me tell you what people normally do. Or actually, you could even tell me, what do people normally write in their About section? Because if you are like normal people, it's probably you. What do most people write?
Skills.
Some skills? What else? 25 years of experience in this industry with the, okay, boring, right? Yeah. It doesn't say much of anything, because the fact is that an employer can scan down your experience section and they can read your experience. You don't need to restate it. The reason why most people got caught in that trap is because LinkedIn used to call it a summary. And when we think of summary, we think of a resume summary. And in the resume summary, which by the way you shouldn't be doing, but back in the day, when we did resume summaries, it was a little paragraph that said 25 years of experience. Okay, we get it. Now they changed it to About, which, and I know why they did that, for this reason. They want you to personalize this. There was a time, back in the day, when you started your, what was then called the summary section, it was a little gray phrase, and it said, I'm passionate about ... They wanted you to talk about what you were passionate about, professionally speaking. So I kind of repurposed that, and I said, look, let's actually use this as a thought leadership statement. Let's talk about the urgent problems that you want to help your tribe solve or your lane solve. Again, this is one way to do it. You do not have to do this, but I'm hoping that it'll inspire you to do something a little richer, okay? Now, I have several that I could be reading to you, but I'm going to let you choose, right? I do these things all the time, but I pulled up ones in advance. Now, this particular one, as you can see, some of you have been trying to read in advance. This person's from a charitable nonprofit. I've got another one who is a researcher in the health community. I've got another one who is an operations executive. I've got another one who is in the environmental world, Robert, I think. He left, okay. Maybe because would have been for him. Someone in the environmental space, and then I have somebody who is in learning and development and training. Any of those sound interesting to anybody in this room? Because I can't read all of them. Huh?
Operations.
Operations, and let's do one more. Oh, and I also have an association executive.
Learning.
So I got operations, the learning, and we got association. All right, so let's see if we can do 3. So let's do the learning. Again, I'm going to read this to you. Just hopefully it inspires you. And this is a lane person, so she's not tribal. She's in her lane, learning and development. I'm a learning strategist who helps organizations maintain their competitive edge. Whether it's career development for members or employees, every stakeholder needs to know their ROI of engagement. Their loyalty to you depends on it. Learning and development strategies should harness the goals of both the organization and the individual to create the biggest impact. Will this course help us compete? Is our curriculum relevant? Is the price tag worth it? These are the types of questions that must be answered for L&D to be a justifiable investment. And with social media turning education into a ubiquitous commodity, the how of learning has become critical too. Learners are expecting courses that meet their unique needs right at their fingertips. Mobile, on-the-job, and on-demand education enables them to learn where, when, and how they need it. The bottom line, when a learner's needs are met, so are the organizations. My philosophy, which is the thought leadership piece, enroll the right leaders, funding, and resources that create building blocks for success. Provide customized curriculum, jobs, and reference tools so learning is actionable. Engage with industry partners who can evolve into raving brand ambassadors. Treat every learner as a customer who needs to be respected, engaged, and nurtured. And now we go a little more deep into their skill set. Project management, ensuring that goals are transparent, clear, and achievable. Program management, holistically aligning programs with needs and resources. Curriculum development, curating content that is fresh, well-marketed, and current. And I have other ones. Course design, process improvement, people management. Who I am, strategic thinker, change leader, technology translator, brand promoter, partnership builder, diplomatic negotiator, mentor, and coach. Reach me at gmail.com. Okay? Now, that's different, right? Very, very different than a traditional summary. Again, you don't have to write it like this. I get it. But I'm hoping that this pings you to think, what are the urgent problems that I am solving? Why should somebody want to hire me? This isn't about your solutions, it's about their problems. Can I say that again? It is not about your solutions, it's about their problems, which means you've got to start with their problems to then have the right to talk about your solutions. And if you're going after a professional like she is, oh, by the way, I should share this with you. You may not have caught this, and I don't know if you did. In the very top, it says whether it's career development for members or employees. Guess what? I'm not clear, on purpose not showing you this person's experience. She currently works for an association, a membership organization, where she does education. She came from corporate before that, where she was doing training for employees. And she is now open to both. This is a perfect example of what I was talking before about tribe and lane, and your question about the broader brand. So what we did was we found the common denominator. Her lane is learning and development for this tribe and for this tribe. She's not specializing. Whereas had she said, look, I came from corporate, I went to associations, forget that corporate stuff, I want to stick association, we would have changed the whole thing. We would have talked about the educational needs of association members and how that whole thing is being disrupted and what she can do. Does that make sense? So you have to think about who are you trying to serve? And if you're trying to go broad, find your common denominator. Okay.
Do recruiters read this, all this?
Great question. Great question. Yeah. Maybe. I'll be very straight with you. I hear that question a lot. Maybe, and I'll tell you what happens. This is how a recruiter does it. Ready? They do their search. They come up with a laundry list of people, which we'll do a search soon. And they go quick, scan, boom. Mary. Let's look at Mary. And they go, where do they go? Straight. Well, they look at the heading. Okay. They go straight to the experience section. They skip this first. They go straight to the experience section. They go, generally speaking, is this person kind of like in my world? If they actually like what they see, then they're likely to go back to the account. It's good to have it. And by the way, you know what this is also like? It's kind of like the cover letter. Cover letters are actually only read a few percentage points at the time. But when they're read, they're read. They're really read. I know employers who fixate on the cover letter because they want this cover letter to be passionate and have shown the person does research and they're committed and and customize it for the job. Nope, this is not a cover letter class, but take it from me. Work on your cover letters, spend time on it. You never know if that recruiter, that employer, is that 2% that's actually going to read it. But it's the same thing with this. Take the time, do it. And then, if they read it, it's going to be worth it. Great question, yeah.
Really quick question.
Yeah.
She had just said above the about in the title, even if I have 3 different areas, I'm glad you see that you have slashes.
Yes.
So if I said, project and event management, nonprofit consultant, can you put up in there?
You can.
Seeking employment,
You
or does
can.
that look bad?
That's not so cool to really do that, because the fact is this. Yeah, that can not say that you are, but it can imply an air of desperation. It's just a psychological thing. It's not that you are. I don't recommend saying actively seeking employment, because here's why. If the employer wants you, they're going to track you down.
Right.
Regardless of whether you say that you're looking, we don't care really. And I mean that, because look, have you ever been gainfully employed and relatively happy in your job, and you get a call from a recruiter on the off day that you're really glad that you got a call from the recruiter? That's what we're hoping. Seriously,
because
it doesn't.
I lost my job due to downsizing, and I was told by a career coach company they gave us that that's what you should put.
Yeah, and I meant, look, if you do it, it's not going to harm you, but it's, in my opinion, it doesn't really look good.
No, thank you.
What kind of work you're looking for? Recruiters do not, look for people like you, because you're looking for a lower level thing. I mean, I know recruiters. It has to be where the company's willing to pay quite a bit of money.
You're absolutely well. Actually, let me break that down. There are different kinds of recruiters. There's a third-party recruiter like myself, where you're right, they do pay a fee. But there are corporate recruiters, and when I say corporate recruiter, I could mean someone who actually is titled a recruiter and they just work for ABC company, or just an HR person who's using LinkedIn to do their searching. So it doesn't have to be a third party. When I say recruiter, I mean both kinds. But even so, we haven't gotten to this place yet in the training. But it's not just about others. This is about being found. The other part of our training is you finding others. And so in your case, more than likely, to your point, it's going to be about you figuring out who do you want to connect with so that somebody actually proactively looks at you. Because otherwise, it may very well be that nobody actually does a search for you.
Well, the reason I ask is because with all that information, if you're more doing the second phase, second kind of what you just said, how you looking for other people. If they're going to check back and see who I am, then I don't think they're going to read that much information.
Well, look, in your case, you may not feel the need to do all of this. This is, of course, a general training, so it may not be right for you. On the other hand, on the off chance that somebody actually cares, it's going to really upgrade your profile. That's all right. It'll create something more sophisticated. Okay. For somebody who was interested in the operations one. Okay. Let me do that run real quickly. Okay. I create order out of operational chaos. As organizations continue to disrupt and evolve, infrastructures need to adapt with intention. I re-engineer processes with the end in mind, creating stable yet flexible operational models that can weather the inevitable storms of change. My battle-tested consulting career has given me a macro perspective to view intractable problems with objectivity and authenticity. With proven methodologies gleaned from both public and private sectors, I've been valued as a trusted advisor to clarify murky team dynamics with a non-political, laser-focused lens. Change leadership questions I ask. What's the real problem we're trying to solve? What's the underlying cause of that problem? What's the risk of not solving it? What are the risks of possible solutions? Which stakeholders will be impacted? Who needs to buy in to succeed? And what will it take to implement seamlessly? My skills: strategic planning, analyzing existing business practices to establish new outputs and outcomes efficiently. Creative ideation, changing the perspective on a problem to arrive at an inspired, stakeholder-driven solution. Process re-engineering, engaging end users to identify gaps, analyze root causes and create a scalable SOP, and then we've got a couple of others. My leadership style: I encourage diverse and innovative thinking. I build teams through trust and collaboration. I empower open and transparent communication. I believe empathy helps people feel heard. I foster accountability by cheerleading success. Now that you've heard two of these profiles, what are the themes that you see here? They're both a little different, but there's a theme here. What are you hearing?
Passion.
Passion. What else?
How can I serve a role in the organization?
How can I serve a role? Keep going.
Kind of very forceful, dramatic language, like very not boring.
Not boring. Yeah, has a little punch, a little spice to it.
Yes,
Yeah. What
Where are my
else?
values? Here's what I think is
Values. My
important.
values. Yeah. What else?
Almost like how they work, like
Yes.
what you can expect from them.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. You can go on and on, right? There's a lot embedded in here, but it starts with that: who I'm serving, what are their problems, what are my solutions, who am I, what are the. By the way, if you notice, why I did these skills here, there a lot of people will actually put, even now, will just put skills like check on their LinkedIn profile. It's not a bad thing, but it's even a little bit more powerful if you explain what you mean by that, not the encyclopedia definition. Like this here, we say strategic planning. Well, if you go to the encyclopedia, you'll probably find a standard definition. I wanted to raise something for this person that says, this is my approach to strategic planning. And in his case, because he's an operations guy, we say analyzing existing business practices to establish new outputs and outcomes efficiently. So there's an efficiency part of strategic planning that's important to him that might be different than somebody else.
I'm surprised how it's almost like a storytelling.
Yes.
It's a narrative
Correct.
of like really, so I'm really surprised it's really more engaging.
Yeah.
So, but I'm surprised, has it changed over the years?
So what I'm sharing with you is my style. That's why I started out by saying you don't have to do this. Thank you. But this is a fairly cutting edge, right?
Yeah.
Kind of way to do it.
Yeah. It's risky. I mean, it's maybe
different.
10 years ago it would be riskier, I think.
Yeah. These days people want thought leaders.
Yeah.
And they want people who are passionate, who are committed, and who know the problem. I keep using this phrase, problems you solve. Why? Because we are in a disrupted world. Everybody's being disrupted, and everybody's looking for people at all different levels, top to bottom, who can help solve their innovation challenges. For-profit, non-profit, everybody in between, even the government. Just by contrary belief, they really, really are. So the extent to which you could say, I got this, I own it, I've got something to say. Share your voice. This is your platform. This is your 2,000 character platform to tell the world who you solve and what problems you solve and how you do it. Okay, let's do the one more. Someone who's the association person? Is that yes? Yes? Okay. All right, so this one, oh, you know what? Okay, now this is a little tribal. So, do we have any other association people in the room? Oh, great. Okay, so 2 of you will understand this. So, this person is a membership executive. So now this is the funny thing. So here's a lane that it really only has one tribe, pretty much. If you say membership, you're pretty much talking about an association. All right, so here we go. Speaking of disruptions, here we go. I'm a value creator. Value isn't cheap, yet in the digital world, it's increasingly free. So when an association makes its pitch, the ROI of engagement must be front and center in order to compete in a world that believes membership is an outdated concept. How I create membership value? By delivering segmented programs that address the unique needs of each member demographic. By inspiring raving brand ambassadors among our volunteers, members, and staff. By marketing programs in a way that honors our members' time and their freedom of choice. By delivering educational events that leave members feeling their price of entry was priceless. Skills I bring to the table. Here, strategic planning, completely different definition. Road mapping a vision that aligns action steps with accountability. Program development, conceptualizing new programs starting with the end in mind. Team leadership, empowering groups to stretch their talents within a safe peer community. Event planning, innovating content that ignites learning, networking, and creative thinking. Staff management, coaching, motivating, and leading toward opportunities yet to be imagined. About me. I'm collaborative, relationship-focused, and a great listener. I'm intuitive about the needs of my team and customize my style to theirs. I'm a voracious thinker and invite healthy discussion about every side of an issue. I'm relentless about pushing boundaries so that others can experience greatness. Let's continue the value discussion, gmail.com.
Nice.
So 3 completely different tribes, lanes, and same kind of idea. Yes, ma'am?
Just curious, what words are yours and what are hers? Like when you write these.
So here, I'm
just curious.
Well,
like,
they're all my words
yours?
in the sense of my crafting of the language. It's her concept. So what I do when and you can do this for yourself, okay? If you want to kind of mock this up, right? Here are basically the questions that I ask my client. Where they come up with kind of long narratives that we talk about, and then I turn it into this. Like I take the clay and mold it into a teacup. Okay, so all this sort of copywriting stuff is mine, but it's her concept. So there are 4 major questions that you want to ask yourself. Number 1, what are the urgent? And same thing we've been talking about. What are the urgent problems that I am uniquely qualified to solve? Now, when you think about urgent problems, you think, if you're a tribal person, you would say, what are the urgent problems keeping my tribe up at night that I'm uniquely qualified to solve? And if you're not a tribal person, you would say, what are the unique challenges within my profession, within my lane, that I'm uniquely qualified to solve? And that'll give you that 100,000-foot canvas. Big societal problems, right? Next down is, what is something, for every person is a little different, but you might say, what is my leadership philosophy, or what's my project management philosophy, or what is my membership philosophy, a philosophical kind of thing. And that gets into your value, that gets into your thought leadership, that sort of says, here's how I approach my tribe or my lane. The third is your skills. Which specific skills, I usually ask for about a half a dozen, okay, are my greatest superpowers, okay, and what specifically is my approach to each one. Okay, so again, you're going to define strategic planning differently than somebody else if that is a skill superpower that you want to focus on. And then finally, what are my behavioral superpowers? So I would say to the person, I'm known as the guy who, I'm known as the girl who. People know me as the person who, right? The collaborative, relationship, intuitive, this, that, see around corners, business detective, I don't know. And I've actually done it with some people where we actually come up with a little creative thing like business detective, right? Feel free to do that. And you can feel free to be a little quippy. And for some of my clients, I do that. A little edge, a little snap, a little something, you know? And I also will say, this is the other side of it. for some of you, you may not actually even want to go quite this snappy. I actually have folks, and especially people in the healthcare profession, in lobbying, government relations, certain kinds of executives, I've had to write it where there has more gravitas, you know, the lingo. and people want to see, so actually let me bring that, so let me show you one of them. Goodness, we'll do one. Okay, so for her, yeah. So this is again, this is a little more jargony, okay? I ensure that healthcare institutions achieve operational effectiveness by reducing barriers for patients, families, providers, and staff. By delivering exemplary, compassionate, and evidence-based care, we improve quality of delivery and drive positive patient outcomes. My philosophy: achieving and maintaining high reliability status means driving best practices in an environment of adaptability with a willingness to keep patients first. Transparency, 360-degree communication, data analytics. I'm like, hi. You know, so that's fine and that's great, but that's in healthcare, right? Or if you have to know who your audience is and write to them. Some of you, and if I and the other side too. Let's say you're in marketing, or in public relations, or any sort of communications. You may want to have a little bit of snap and edge. Does that make sense? So the tone of your writing has to match the audience. Great? Okay, we've spent a lot of time on this, but it's so important I wanted to actually share this with you. Now we can keep going down. Okay. So going back to the profile. Pulling up my own. So your experience. Now, your experience is your resume. Well, you actually want to have what you want to have your resume and your experience section consistent. I'm going to give you, I'm going to say this, but I'm going to put a caveat to it too, okay? On the one hand, employers are looking for consistency between one and the other, okay? And when I say consistency, first of all, let's just go to a very practical level, and that is typos. You cannot ever have any typos on your LinkedIn or your resume. Now you're like, but of course I know that. You are human beings. And as a human being, there is something called an optical illusion. And your eyeball just sort of glosses right over the typo. We all do it, okay? I have to remind you this because I have seen people lose opportunities for one typo. Especially when that typo is an inconsistency, particularly in the date, between what's on LinkedIn and what's on your resume. You may be completely unaware that it says your resume says 2018 and your LinkedIn says 2017. Trust me on this. I have seen it happen too many times. Please, 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 please go back and double check that every single detail, every fact about your employment history is correct on LinkedIn. Number two, so I happen to, just for myself, I've just put these little paragraphs, and that's okay for somebody like me. But for you guys who have accomplishments on your resume, or may I say you should have accomplishments on your resume, not job duties. Actual accomplishments with results. And I know in the class you guys teach that. So when whatever accomplishments you have, you can cut and paste them, bless you, into LinkedIn. Now, there is a character count. I never figured it out actually, but if you open up your little pencil here and you go down to the description, you have quite a bit of room, okay, that you can cut and paste. At some point it'll cut you off, and that's okay, you can figure that out. But here's the other side of my mouth, right? So on the one hand, there's consistency. On the other hand, and as I know this is not a resume class, but your resume needs to be customized for every job. Can I just say that one more time? Mm-hmm. Every job. Notice I did not say 3 different versions of your resume. I said every job. That employer is expecting you to customize it for them. So you're like, but how can I be consistent between one and the other? It is a challenge. I'm not going to lie. It is a challenge. But some of your bullets on your accomplishments will probably be consistent, probably. And those are the ones that you should be putting on LinkedIn, at the very least. But whatever you do put on LinkedIn needs to be married up. Yes?
How far back do you go?
Yep, I get that question a lot. So I know that there's an age issue probably baked into that question.
Yes.
Yeah. So different recruiters and coaches will have different opinions about this. Mine happens to be right around the 20-year mark. I don't think there's any problem with that, particularly if you are at a little bit more of a senior level. It doesn't even have to be an executive, but more senior. Why? Because if you're trying to command a higher salary, you know, you can't be showing that you have 5 years of experience. You actually need to have some serious experience. So there is something to be said for that. Is it 15? Is it 20? Is it a little bit more? Must have enough. But I would not do the 10 years if you unless you only have 10 years of experience. But if you actually have some seasonedness to you and you're trying to show that, just putting 10 years is usually not enough. 15, 20, maybe a little bit more. Is that helpful?
Do you put the year that you graduated college?
No, not unless you're a recent grad or within the last 10 years. Yeah, I would not. Yeah. Did you have a question?
Yes, so on LinkedIn, are you saying you should also include your accomplishments and not just a
Yes.
description?
Correct. So let me give you, let me see if I can, we did this with her yet. I think we did this here. No, we didn't. All right. So I want to give you examples of that.
I have a question for you, Shira.
Well, yeah, so yes. So when I say put your accomplishments down, I mean cut and paste the bullets. I do want to give you guys a link, by the way. So LinkedIn does not allow you to use Microsoft Word bullets. I don't know if you realize that, they just don't. However, there is another LinkedIn writer on the web. She has very graciously put LinkedIn-friendly bullets on her website. If you literally type in LinkedIn-friendly bullets, this page will come up first. And if you scroll halfway down this page, here they are. Here they are. All you have to do is cut and paste. Or not cut, you have to copy and paste. I happen to like this little diamond. I happen to like the little check marks. You do what you like, but you know, it makes it a little bit more creative than the little teeny little dot that you're going to get if you go. So.
What is the name of the page?
So if you Google, just Google the following phrase: LinkedIn friendly bullets.
Okay.
The very first link is this page, and scroll halfway down. This is on this page, and this is what you're going to get. And she's had this up here since 2012, so I'm sure she's always going to keep it up. And there, you've got little, stars and diamonds and things. I think the diamond, this particular little diamond, I think is pretty professional looking when it shows up on the page. My point though is that when you cut and paste your accomplishments, which are bullets, and you pull them over into LinkedIn, you can use one of these bullets as the bullet, and it makes it a little prettier.
Do they work with applicant tracking software?
So you're talking about the resume? Well, because LinkedIn has nothing to do with the applicant tracking system.
I know, but never mind.
Yeah, the resume is different. The resume formatting, that's a whole different thing. But for LinkedIn, one has nothing to do with the other. This
Your
is just your
accomplishments, you take those from your resume.
You're taking your accomplishments from your resume, which will, I'm sure, have a bullet next to it. You can cut that accomplishment, put it into your LinkedIn job description in your experience, and stick one of these bullets next to it. Because Microsoft Word bullets are not going to translate. Question?
On the premium one, they have this option that you can create a LinkedIn resume through premium. Do you recommend that?
Yeah. There's no need for it. Recruiters don't look at that. They just don't. They're going to go scan down your experience section, which is why the more information you have in your experience section, the better. Understand this. When recruiters are trying to save time. If they post a job on Indeed, on LinkedIn even, on Career Builder, anywhere, they are going to get inundated with hundreds and hundreds of resumes. They want to avoid that. So they go to LinkedIn instead, most of them do, to avoid the whole thing. Meaning, most of the jobs that are out there are hidden from the market. Do you understand that? They're hidden from the market. You will never even know. 75% of jobs are hidden from the market. Not on LinkedIn, meaning LinkedIn job, not on Indeed, not on any of these job postings. It's a recruiter taking the time to go and search. I do it myself. I do it all the time because we get inundated when we post. And so if you, knowing that, okay, you need to make sure that you are findable. And that's why the keywords have to be there. Did you have a specific question there?
Oh yeah, because you're saying the recruiters are going to be looking for you with your keywords. So, I try to make things simple. I'm very direct. So basically, the key to the whole story is have keywords that the person can look for, and then when they see your,
That's right.
when they see your, and I'm not going to do all this, like the whole bullet thing on
That's okay.
everything, but you said that 20 years would be fine if you're looking for a senior position.
Yeah.
And usually when you look it up, it doesn't show you all the 20 years, it shows you maybe 10 at the beginning, so it's not overwhelming. for that.
Yeah, so the experience section, right, down here, you can go as far back as you want. But like I said, 20 years to me makes the most sense. When a recruiter is looking you up on LinkedIn, again, they're going to probably go there first. You want to give them enough information to help them say yes. If all you had on your experience section was the company and the titles and the dates, what do they have to go on? Not much. And if you have just 3 lines about what you did, what do they have to go on? Not much. If this is your one chance to capture their attention for a job that you don't even know exists, why not give them enough information to go with? That is putting your resume on LinkedIn. You're, so to speak, putting your resume, like filling out the experience section all the way down. Giving them enough information that they can make a good decision to actually give you a call.
So enough information so that when they look at that one sheet,
yes,
and you can tell them, okay,
yes,
I was designing your
right, yeah.
You don't need to go into like.
You don't. Well, actually, so my thought is actually no, give them a little bit of detail. Okay. I mean, actually, so here, she used the paragraph form. What I recommend is more than that. Actually, I recommend a little, maybe 2 or 3 lines of your responsibilities, and then underneath that, accomplishment, 3, maybe 4 accomplishments on your LinkedIn profile. Give the recruiter your resume here, because they may use that instead of a resume. A lot of people do that these days. Some recruiters not even asking for a regular resume once they've looked this up, because they already see that you can do the job. It's the equivalent of putting your resume online. Okay, really.
How do you
really
get
helpful.
away with not putting your college or graduate years?
You don't have to. It just, there literally is when you go here to your, to the, when you click on, where is, oh, of course, I'm on her page, not my page. When you go to education, here, click on the button here, right? You can go here, I still happen to have mine, but you can go click here and you go to the top and it just say year and it goes away. The year goes away. Here, the year goes away.
Do you find that employers ask for age because it's not illegal to ask for age?
Okay, so let me explain to you the age thing. So let me clarify the whole age thing. Here we go. Age is a protected class. Okay. I'm getting a little impassioned about this. Here is the dilly. Okay. Age is a protected class. Still on the books. People who are over 40, hence 40 plus. This is why it's the number 40 here. 40. If you're over 40, you are in a protected class. When we talk about the folks who are under 40, that's a whole other issue. But if you're over 40, you're a protected class. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing is, employers are not. I'm going to make one big caveat in a second to everything I'm about to say. Employers are not allowed to ask you your age. Number 3, they're not allowed to ask you when you graduated from high school, because most people graduated at 18. That's on the books. Here's the big fat caveat. The federal government does not abide by that policy. I talked to somebody who used to work at OPM, and she can't figure it out too. If you go to USA Jobs, they ask you when you graduated high school.
Indeed does, though. A lot of applications on Indeed ask for age.
That is illegal.
Well, law firms do too.
That is illegal.
Yeah.
That is illegal. That is illegal. And somebody needs to call them
And it has a little bullet point there.
But it doesn't mean you have to put it in there.
That is illegal, and somebody in HR.
The resume.
Somebody needs. No, I'm serious. Somebody needs to call them.
And you cannot submit it. You cannot ignore the question and submit the resume.
I'm so sorry that happened to you, because that
not
is,
once.
It is. I'm just telling you. If you ever see that, but again, the federal government somehow gets.
It's not the federal government.
I know. I'm just saying. I
The
get
thought
it.
is using Indeed anyway is kind of out of date anyways. as far
Well,
as job
exactly.
goes, right?
Indeed,
So,
yeah. Well,
right.
exactly. Indeed is
Monster.
becoming more out of date, and it's not to say. Look, it's not to say that you can't use those job boards. Look, there's a job there. Please manage your own expectations about that. I mean, there's a very, very small percentage change that you're going to get recognized. But let's talk about that for a second. how can you leverage your chances? And this goes back to your original question, Anne-Marie, right? About what if you have like a second level contact? So here we go. So look, given time, I want to pop off of the creating, being found, and go to finding others. Now, why would you? So we're going to talk about the search bar here. So here is one of the reasons why one of the many reasons why you would want to use the search bar. Okay, ready? You found a job on Indeed. You found a job on Career. You found a job on the LinkedIn job board. You found a job at somewhere. How in the world do you get noticed?
Network.
By finding an internal champion. That's the phrase you want to hit on. By finding an internal champion. Somebody who's going to proverbially walk your resume to the recruiter, to the hiring manager, and say, hello, please consider Anne-Marie. Okay? Now, the higher up the food chain you can go, the better, because the people below that person are more likely to say, yes sir, yes ma'am, sure, happy to consider them. Okay? If you go directly to the recruiter, that's okay, but it's not as powerful as having your resume sent to the hiring manager, and the hiring manager telling the recruiter, please consider this person. Okay? So when you find that job, try to figure out the title of the hiring manager. If there's any way you can figure out their name, great. But if you can't figure out their name through normal channels, then you would pop the title in here. But before you do that, you pop the name of the organization in. Okay? So American Red Cross is the one that I always use for these trainings. Don't ask me why. And networks unavailable, and that's always fun. Okay, let's pivot. Oh, right. Here we go.
Almost.
Come on. Here we go. Right. So I typed in American Red Cross. I'm using this as an example, and partly because, look, do you see how many results there are? 538,554. Okay. Well, that's a lot of people to look through. So if you found a job at American Red Cross that you wanted to apply for, there's all these different ways you can start sussing through all this rich data. So the main thing you'll want to do is you're going to go to the upper right-hand corner where it says All Filters. And this is where you start your searching. This is where you narrow things down. Now I'm going to scroll through this page. And by the way, to your question earlier, this is one of the best things that ever happened when Microsoft took over LinkedIn. I was in high heaven. Okay. So I'm going to show you a few of these things that you can do. So the first thing is, over here in Connections, you can filter by your level of connection. So the first thing I would do is I would click on First. Do I have any first level connections at American Red Cross? Well, it's obvious, right, why I would do that, to see if somebody can directly connect me in there. But before I did that, I would actually go over here to Locations and click on Washington, D.C. because I know that that's the location that I want. And I would hit Apply. Now that's going to take me down, in my case, to a mere 163 people, which is still a lot, albeit, okay? But what we can do is we can go back to the All Filters, and now I can go down to the section down here that says Title.
Okay, can you slow down, please?
Certainly.
So I'm following along here.
No worries, no worries.
So I
clicked on First,
yeah,
and I clicked on DC.
Uh-huh.
Now we scroll down. I'm just going down to the bottom.
Very bottom.
Very bottom. Where it says Title. Oh, by the way, you should know, you are not, so the LinkedIn app has different functionality than the PC. I'm using the PC version.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see you're on an iPad. So
The app is a lot harder.
The app is a lot harder.
Yeah.
It's not as
Everybody
flexible.
falls
You
down.
have some of this. You don't have everything here. Highly recommend do your searching on a PC. Anyway, so title. So I might just say, just for lack of a better title, I'm just going to say Human Resources for the moment, because right now I can't think of a. Well, no, actually, let's do this. Let's do Vice President. I don't know what Vice President of what, but you would know if you would know what the title is. Vice President. So I'm going to hit Apply. So we got Vice President Business Strategies, Vice President Comparative Effective Research. Okay. Well, this is interesting because do you see how some of these people don't actually work at the Red Cross? You know why? Because I didn't click on current companies. When you put the name of an organization in, it pulls up people who currently work there and who used to work there. Both. So you need to click on current companies, Red Cross. Now I can apply. And no results. Ha! Interesting. So I don't have any first level contacts who are vice presidents in the DC metro area. Okay, good to know. So I'm going to go back to all filters. And I'm going to put in human resources. I don't know what they call their HR people, but let's just say it's HR. No results. Interesting. Okay, I think they have the title recruiter there. This isn't working the way that I wanted it to. Okay, so let's go back and take these out. And the other way, by the way, you can do this is up here. Yeah, it's not working. Because I think your titles are not the titles that I would think that they were. Let's go back to something's wrong. All right, I'm gonna, you can hit the clear function.
I saw talent.
Oh, talent, there you are. Okay, so American Red Cross, I'm just going to put talent up here. Add. And here we go. Director of Talent Acquisition, thank you for that. VP of Talent HR Support, get it? All these people. So now I could go to all filtered. Oh, you could, by the way, here, see where it says connections, locations, and current companies? Those are the short versions, almost like longhand, shorthand, or long division, short division. That's the short division if you want really quickly to find your connections, the locations, or the current companies. Right? That's cool. So for connections, I'm going to hit first. I don't know, maybe I have a first level, maybe I don't. Ooh, here we go. Okay, a bunch of them. Okay. The point is this: you can do this search feature for any permutation. It's very, very rare. You can start with the name of the organization, or you can flip it, and you can just start with titles. So let's go back. So let's just forget the Red Cross for a second. I'm going to show you another way you can use this search bar. Okay, so let's say, put aside the job boards, put aside an actual position description that you're going after. I want to talk to you about how you can actually expand your network in a very proactive way. Remember the tribe, remember the lane concept. This comes into play right now. So for example, this gentleman was here in the association world, right? So let's just say we put in executive director. Because I know that there are executive directors in that world. Okay? So I put that in here, and I see that there are nonprofit people, and I see there are association people. So I'm gonna hit the all filters, and I'm gonna go to, and oh, do you see how DC didn't come up anymore? Okay, that's only because when I put in executive director, remember it's an international search. Okay, so it's giving me everybody that's considered an executive director. LinkedIn's only pulling up the first the main 5 locations that represent everybody in that search field, which in this case doesn't happen to include DC. So you can go to here, start typing in Washington, and DC metro area comes up, and hit apply. Okay.
You don't need to put quotes on it.
No, it's not a Boolean. Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah, that's right. You don't have to use quotation marks or parentheses or anything like that. It's pretty flexible and fluid. And so that's one thing you can do. You can type in the name of the title of the type of person that you're going after, and then you start to narrow it down a little bit and say, oh, here's this person who's a second level. Look, 36 mutual connections. Well, that's not surprising to me because Water Environment Federation is a trade association, which is in my tribe, and I have a lot of people who are contacts. But if this guy worked for, I don't know, some other kind of nonprofit, then maybe not, because I'm not in some of the other ones, right? So I would open up 36 mutual connections and say, all right, well, here. Of these people, who do I know well enough who may be willing to do an introduction, even though there's no specific job, but I actually want to connect and talk with that person. I might say, hey, Peter, I noticed you're connected to whatever the person's name is. I forgot here. Walter. And I'd write Peter an email, and I'd say, hey, you're connected. Here's why I'd like to be connected to Walter. Would you consider brokering an introduction? So remember how my other phrase was, I'd like to get my resume for extra consideration? That's that phrase. This one is, would you consider brokering an introduction? Okay. So having the ability to do that title search is absolutely huge. Okay, and so the other thing though is that you want to be looking at industries. Now, for those of you who are tribal, this can be really, really helpful. So let's say you put in, I don't know, vice president marketing, because that you're looking for a marketing role and you think that your next boss is going to be a vice president of marketing. Well, I'm sorry, I have to be clear here for a second. Okay, so I have 2 million people showed up under VP of marketing. So I'm going to go to the filters, and now I'm going to go to industries. And I have to explain to you something about the industry section. When LinkedIn created this field, which is over to the right, they made the assumption that everybody has what I call a tribe, an industry. That's not true. There are a lot of you in this room that don't have an industry. So when you create your profile, you might actually have a challenge of figuring out what industry do I call my? Did you ever have that problem when you wrote when you created your LinkedIn profile? There is a section that says what is your industry, and you might go, and you looked at their list, and you're like, I'm not there. Well, part of that's because again, not everybody has tribe. Number two, LinkedIn didn't put every industry known to man. They put in the ones that they knew. So for example, they don't put an association, they put a nonprofit organization management. That's what they call it. I happen to know that. Now where do you find this? I want to, before we go into this filtering, you have to know where to find the industry list. It's a little hidden. It's a little hidden. You go back to your home page and you go back to your profile and you go to the very first pencil. You scroll down, halfway down, you're going to see, oh, that's so interesting. By the way, do you remember you said LinkedIn changing? They just changed this. I told you, this happens to me all the time, right in the middle of the training. This says, we're updating our location data. New suggested location, Washington, D.C., Baltimore area.
Because I've been told that with Microsoft they've become more data-driven, analytic,
yes. So they're out in where, Seattle, is it, or something? Yeah, they're thinking, oh, DC, Baltimore, we know better. We know it's a completely different region. They don't get that. But whatever, see, there you go, right there in front of you. But right underneath it says industry. And if you click on this drop-down, these are all of the industries that LinkedIn thinks is an industry. The thing about this list, like I said, is finite. You have to choose one for yourself. But when you're looking for other people, know that the person that you're looking for also had to choose an industry, so you have to be a detective and think to yourself, what might that person have called themselves, the person I'm trying to find? So I want to give you a little bit of a nuance here. Not all of these are actually what one might think of as an industry. For example, accounting. That's at the very top of the list. Now, LinkedIn thinks of an accounting firm, right? You're in the accounting industry. Well, sure, maybe. But actually, if you're an accountant, you're going to choose accounting because it's not your industry, it's your profession. And there are several of those like that. There's one for marketing, there's one for human resources, there's a bunch of those that LinkedIn calls an industry, but actually you and I would both think of as a profession. So you have to be a detective. Therefore, why did I give you that? Because if you are doing this search for vice president of marketing, and you're wanting to, oh, by the way, if you do this, and you see all these like jobs and so forth, click on the people tab. The people tab is what's going to get you to the people. Otherwise, on that main page, LinkedIn's going to give you jobs and companies and go to people. And then you go to all filters, and you go down here to industries. Now, do you see here? The very first one says marketing and advertising. Why? Because that VP of marketing, or any VP of marketing, might actually check on marketing and advertising as their industry, but it's really their profession. I happen to know that. You need to know that for yourself. Think about it, right, logically. So if you're trying to sift it down, I'd click on marketing and advertising first. But then, I don't know, maybe I'm in the IT tribe. Maybe I'm looking for an IT, I'm going to go in the IT world. And I think to myself, well, that VP of marketing might have actually considered themselves part of the IT world. So I'm going to click on both. Here and here. And hit apply. Okay. So we have all these different marketing folks. Some of them are from that industry, and some of them are from technology. But the point is, use that industry list wisely as you are narrowing things down. Very, very important. Okay.
How important is it the other way, if people are searching for you and recruiters are searching for you, do you need to think like they are?
You need to think about what industry might they be ascribing you to. So again, if you have that, if you're in a lane that is listed in the industry list, that's fine. You can choose that one because recruiters understand that. They will automatically go there. But if you're not, you have to be kind of judicious about it because that industry filter is really, really important. They will use that all over the place. And if you've mislabeled yourself, you may not be found. Yeah.
Should you use if you want to switch tribes, I forget the right term, should you use the tribe you want to go to
Yes.
as your industry?
Yes.
Even if you're not in it.
That's okay, because you want to be found there. Yeah, yes.
So if you're clear on your lane, like you know your occupation,
Yeah.
and you're not quite as clear on your industry, or you think it's one.
Right. This is the tricky. This is exactly the trickiest point of the whole thing.
Got it.
Because you might be in a conundrum wrapped in an enigma with that one. I mean it, right? You might look at that industry list and be like, pick the thing that you think is closest. I mean, really, that's the best I can tell you.
Sure.
For some of you, you might be at the executive level and you don't have a tribe or a lane listed in that area. There is one that says executive office, but that only applies to a few people. Otherwise, you just gotta do your best.
Right.
That's a glitchy thing, I think, in LinkedIn. Somebody needs to tell them to expand how they do it. Okay, so we only have about 10 minutes left, and there are other things I want to share with you. But before we do, are there any other questions that I just want to make sure that we're answering before? Okay. So one area I want to talk about is recommendations. Okay, I want to pop off of the search for just a minute. Recommendations are really, really important. Endorsements are not. Recommendations are really, really important. Endorsements are not. The reason is that, do you know why endorsements are not important? You tell me.
They're too easy.
Too easy to do.
It's too easy to do.
They're meaningless.
Because they're meaningless. Because you're gonna get something from someone. Oh, does John know something about project management? You're like, sure. and they end up tossing skills out about you that you don't even do. I had to clean up a whole bunch of mine. Temporary staffing. I'm a temporary staffing. Like, whatever. So endorsements mean nothing. Recommendations mean a lot. And I want to make sure that we do that really quickly because it's not only that you need to have recommendations, you need to have the right kind of recommendations. So yes, you do want supervisors wherever possible. And if not supervisors, then people who really know your work, not your best friend. Sorry. Professional references. But it's more than that even. The content of what they write needs to match your brand. So let's pretend somebody writes you a recommendation and it's like, oh, Susie, man, is she just the most organized and detailed and analytical person. And you're thinking to yourself, I want to be seen as a change leader. I want to be seen as a strategist. We're talking about my organizational skills. That confuses your brain. So let me show you how you can do this. So first of all, you can only ask a recommendation of a first level contact. You have to be first level. I'm just going to pull up a person. And you would, you open up the person, right? And then you go to the More button over here. More. And then you say Request a Recommendation. Now I want to walk you through this. It's much easier than it used to be. Here's yet another thing that LinkedIn changed, and they changed it for the better. It used to be a lot more complicated. So you want to select a relationship with that person, a whole bunch of options. I'll just pick whatever, one of them. Select your position at the time, make sure that it was the position where you work with that person, and click Next. Here's the kicker, right here. Hi, Jeff, can you write me a recommendation? Ostensibly, is there anything wrong with that? Well, no, it's professional. What's wrong with that?
A little terse.
Well, okay, besides that, that's true. That's true. They don't know what to write. Definitely, there's no content there. So here's what I recommend you do. First of all, if you're going to be asking for recommendation from somebody, that means you're close enough to them that you should be able to call them, write them, hey buddy, whatever. You need to grease the skids. You need to prep them for this invitation you're about to send them. hey Jeff, hope all's well. I'm top grading my LinkedIn profile, and I'd really love to get a recommendation from you. Would you be okay with that? And of course, I'll say yes. I'll say, great. Would you mind, tick off your fingers, would you mind including this kind of verbiage? Would you mind looking at my LinkedIn, my new LinkedIn About section, wink, wink, and see the language that I put in there, maybe use some of that content. Hey, if you want me to write it for you, why not? Why not, right? As long as they approve it, it's okay. Not a dissertation, nice little paragraph, but it needs to be rich and robust. After you do that, you say, okay, now I'm going to send you a LinkedIn invitation. Here, hi Jeff, thanks for agreeing, right? To da 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 da. And as you know, as we discussed, would you kindly make sure remind them. Now you're going to hit send. After you hit send, it's important. Jeff's going to write the recommendation, send it back to you. You can have him edit it, so if you don't like, if you want something changed, you can send it back. Once you get the final version, this is important. There are 2 things you need to do to have that recommendation show up on your profile. You need to accept it, and you need to show it. You need to accept it, and you need to show it. If you only accept it and you don't show it, it'll be stuck in your archives. Yeah.
So sorry to ask, for some reason one of my friends who I worked with on a board of a charity that I'm on wrote me a recommendation, but it came up in my display, it comes up twice, but I don't think I can delete one of them. So do I have to ask her somehow?
No, actually you can. You can.
Duplicative.
Nope, you can. And somebody asked me this recently, and I found it. That's okay.
I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah. So go back to your profile, your editable page, and you go down to recommendations, and you click on received.
Okay.
Maybe you should be able to click on received. Why can't I not click on received? Oh, here they are. Oh, yeah. So it is. Yeah, you click on the pencil. Click on the pencil.
Okay.
And then you can unclick the show. You can hide it.
Unclick one of the 2.
Yeah, exactly, one of them.
Twice. Okay.
Yeah, whatever one you want. Got it? Okay. You had a question back there?
No, it's just something I've done over the years, and that is when I ask a colleague or a friend who wants to, it's a former colleague, a supervisor, for a recommendation, I'll say to them, look, just based upon the work that we've done over the years, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put together a draft for you.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. You absolutely can do that. Absolutely.
Particularly for those bosses that asked you to write your own review.
Correct. Correct. Okay, so I'm looking at the time, and I know that people have got to go. I know we could stay longer, but I want to be respectful of people's time. Is there any other last minute questions? I know we could go on and on. Anything else?
Every time you change something, does your network get an announcement?
Great question. No-ish. No-ish. If you go under the Me button in the upper right hand and go to Settings and Privacy, and then there is a section that says Share. See where it says Share Job Change? Here's the ish. Okay. Job changes, education changes, and work anniversaries. Those are the 3 things that you could allow LinkedIn to send on your behalf. But if you open this up, see, mine says no. Yours could say yes. And if it says yes, then if you change a job, if your education changes, or you have a work anniversary, then people will be updated. But otherwise, no. They've really just ratcheted that down. They got a lot of flack from people saying, oh, I don't want to my whole network to hear, everything's going on.
I have a question on a completely different topic, but it was recommended that I ask you. And that is, can you spend just a moment talking about how we might dance around when people ask us what salary we're looking for at the beginning stages of a
Sure. I'm happy to ask that. You're right, it's a completely different topic. If it's okay, can I just put a pin in that? Is this your, I want to make sure to do LinkedIn first, and then at the end, as we're wrapping up, happy to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, one alignable, because I'm getting requests about alignable. There's it's a new site that's out there. It's supposed to be a LinkedIn.
It's for business networking. Like
right.
LinkedIn is for for personal,
Oh,
millennials
well,
for
it's-
businesses.
Oh, but it's nothing to do with LinkedIn.
No, but I'm getting a lot of those invitation requests, so I'm not sure if you were familiar with it.
I'm not, and I have actually, over the years, there have been a lot of LinkedIn-esque types of groups. I personally haven't found that they're worth much. None of them have really taken off like this. To me, this is like gold standard, and I just focus all my
I
attention
gotcha.
here.
And the other thing is, I was actually told, or I was recommended that if you find a job or a company that you're interested in, to make sure you follow them, and it's okay to send out a kind of a blind request saying we have shared interest and the like to someone within the organization.
You
to develop a relationship.
certainly can. You can follow. These are all nice to dos, right? You're interested in the company, you can follow them. If you are, yes, and not only that, but remember, put the name of the organization in that search bar. Find the people who are there. Try to build some relationships if you're really, really targeting them.
Right.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, anything else? I will tackle salary in a second. Anything else? Okay. All right, so I'm about to talk about salary. Ron, I don't know if you want to, this is still, so here's the thing with salary. I'm going to give you a little speech, if that's okay. I have one. So negotiating salary is very much like buying and selling a home. One side wants to pay as little as possible, one side wants to get as much as possible, all right? All right? Exactly the same process. And the challenge for both sides is trying to do that dance. Now, this is the one major time within a job search where they have the upper hand. They just do. They hold the cards, just the way it's done. They can control whether they tell you about salary. Okay? They can. Before I give you my speech around how to actually navigate that, I want to share with you this thing. To date, there are 17 states and counties in the union that have something called a salary ban, where they're no longer allowed to ask you what are you currently making, and that's for gender equity purposes. That is likely to expand. That's the way it is right now. DMV, not part of that, unfortunately. They're still allowed to ask you the question. I personally don't, because I try to take the high road because I know better. But employers will still do that. You want to try to get them off of that. Now, don't be belligerent. Don't be attitudinal. Okay? But you can try to shift them off by saying, here's what I'm looking for. Now, in the here's what I'm looking for, I'm going to give you a little formula. And this formula is going to help you to start out with a higher number that you can negotiate down. Because as we know, you can't negotiate up. You can only go down. I'm going to give you a sentence. It's going to have a blank, and then I'll tell you how to fill in the blank. If they say, what are you looking for? Even if they say, what are you currently making? You say, well, let me just share with you what I'm looking for. Just pivot. I'm seeking a total cash compensation package in the blank range. I'm seeking a total cash compensation package in the blank range. Now, here's what you should never, ever put in the range. In blank, rather. 2 numbers. Why not? Because they're going to give you the lowest number. Never, ever give them 2 numbers. I'm telling you, if you learn nothing else from this little speech, don't give them 2 numbers. What you should be putting in there is what I call your happy dance number. Now, that's not a ridiculous number. It's not like if you should be asking for 100, don't ask for 250. That's a little crazy. But you should be asking for something that's reasonably appropriate at the high end. Now, of course, you're thinking, yeah, but how do I find that out? But you don't understand. I have a special situation. I know. I get it. You have to do some research, and there's no magic science to this. Let's presume for a moment that you've done your homework and you figured out, look, approximately, this would be a decent higher end, this title, this kind of industry, size, the whole thing. What I would do is I would recommend putting one of 2 things. Either a number like, say I'm seeking a total cash compensation package in the $110,000 range. Now, if you say that, here's what the employer hears. They hear either that 110 is either in their range or it's not in their range.
Right.
If it's in their range, that'd be great. They write it down and off to the next question. Literally, there's no more conversation because they just want to know if they're wasting their time, right? They need to know. If you're out of their range, what they're going to do is clear their throat. Go, pause. The highest we can actually go is, and this is the only time they're going to tell you what their high-end number is, because you've just gone above it. Now they're going to say, well, the highest we can actually go is 95.
Yeah.
Do you have any flexibility? Then you go back to the beginning part of that statement, where it's, well, I'm seeking a total cash compensation package. Now you can talk about benefits, right? It gives you an out. So that one-liner about with the range works if you're in their range, and they don't talk about it anymore. But if you're above their range, then you can talk about benefits, and that's okay. You can actually say, what can we do? Not what can you do. What can we do to get me a little bit closer to my target number? Say, oh, well, our benefits are this, and we have a bonus plan, or we have incentive compensation. Blah, 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 blah. Does that make sense? Okay, right? Just go high, then you can negotiate low. Nice. There you are. Okay, if you need to reach me.
Yes.
Thanks, Shira. So if you need to reach me, of course my connection was interrupted again, you can.
Not connect.
You can connect with me. Actually, funny you say that. I will connect with you, but write down 40 plus. Do that little tiny note, then I know that it's actually you, right? Definitely do that with me. I scream for that.
29,000.
I have to scream for that now, right? Like, oh, this is a legitimate person. So if you right here, there's my email address.
Yeah, got that.
Okay. So feel free to reach out, say hello. But yes, please mention 40 plus when you do it. Oh, and I should also mention one more thing. So 40 plus is a partner with me in a whole different venture. So I run on the side, Labor of Love. I run a nonprofit program called Boomer Works, whose mission it is to empower professionals age 50 plus to re-career into self-employment. Yes, we have a lot of ageism, and that will continue. We'll all get aged out of the market at some point. We all need to either have a side hustle now or be able to go into small business for ourselves at some point in some way. So our mission is to empower people to do that. And we do have a partnership with 40 Plus where we periodically present. In fact, we had a volunteer here present last month on this. We currently have a meetup in Laurel every the second Tuesday of the month, but we are now going to be expanding all around the region. We're going to have Montgomery County and Fairfax and Alexandria and Bowie and all around. So if you're interested, it's free. If you're interested, it's boomerworks.org. BOOMERWORKS.org. As we're looking for volunteers, yes we are. Project managers. We are looking for project managers and marketing people. We are, so if you're interested.
And how is it different than 40 plus?
We're looking for project
It's
managers.
for self-employment specifically.
Specifically for self-employment.
Thanks.
So, but feel free to go to our website. It's got information. We're changing it. So anyway, just wanted to let you all know that.
Thank you very much.
And God bless you guys.
Thank you.
And I want to just